Good morning. We're having a brief interview today with Grenn Gruber. Glenn is AVP of our Travel Technologies group at Ness Technologies. And he wanted to comment this morning about this event, the Travdex Event in Atlanta. And also, Glenn wanted to get your sense from your time here about interesting discussions that you've had.
Sure. Thanks, Phil. First of all, I will say that the Travdex event has been really good. This was the first year that they've had it. I'm not sure that a lot of people knew what they were coming to expect, but it's been a lot of really good conversations with clients, prospects, and even competitors. That's always fun, and there's a lot of interest, and it's been a good show. Some of the interesting things that were talked about, a lot of it happened yesterday evening. When Phil Wolf, who's the CEO of Focusrite, the leading analyst firm in the travel space, talked about some of the topics that they're going to speak about later in the year at the Focusrite conference in November. You know, the kind of move towards chaos as they're talking about it. And there was interesting conversations about the proposed acquisition of ITA software by Google versus the Facebook Open Graph, and what are some of the other things that are happening in the marketplace that may be disruptive or have the biggest impact over the next year or so. And a lot of interesting conversation, a lot of split between who thought what was more important than the other. One of the interesting things that was also talked about was the Apple iTravel patent, and anytime that Apple goes into a market, they seem to have a significant impact. And while a lot was talked about the iTravel patent, which had a lot to do with near-field communication and other technologies through the boarding process at an airport, one thing that I thought was a little underreported, under-talked about, was Apple's acquisition of Siri a couple of weeks ago. Siri, the question was, will ITA and Google change meta search and actually search for travel overall? I think that Siri's acquisition, the acquisition of Siri, could have an even bigger impact, because unlike typical web search, where you're just getting back response to the query that you put out, Siri is, as they call it, a do engine. So it's not just bringing back results. It'll actually make and complete a transaction for you. So I want to go to a restaurant, or I need to take a flight from here to here to here. It can actually go and book all of that. And I think that having that intelligence built into Apple's platform, especially as mobile is becoming more important for the traveler, and the industry is struggling to figure out what role that mobile is going to really eventually take, I think that that's going to have a lot more impact than maybe people were giving it credit for initially.
Can you comment a little bit more about the Facebook announcement or Facebook implications?
Sure. Just a couple of weeks ago, Facebook had their F8 conference, which was their major developer conference. And one of the things, probably the biggest thing that they announced at the conference, was their new Facebook Open Graph. And basically, it's a way to link your Facebook profile, of which there are now over 400, coming up on 500 million users in the Facebook universe, to things that you're doing on, potentially on any other site out on the web. So you don't actually have to like something on Facebook. You can actually like it at the page that you're on, doing whatever you're doing, but it will link back. And so it's a way for Facebook to really collect preferences that people have over a much broader universe than just whatever they happen to be seeing on Facebook. And then the ability to take that information, make some sense out of it, and start to show how the preferences maybe of your friends might impact the choices that you might make, or kind of that association of people like you, who like this may also like that. I think that there could be a very big impact on buying preference. I believe it was Norm Rose, who's one of the analysts for Focusrite, talked about how that can have a really big impact on the travel space, where perhaps one might choose to stay at a certain hotel or go to a certain destination or activity based upon what they know that their friends are doing. And really, if you think about it, we all take the insights and inputs from our friends much more than we would for just someone that we might happen to link to on any other kind of social network, because we trust their opinions more, and therefore we're more predisposed to follow the advice that they give. And so the Facebook Open Graph, to be able to collect that much more data, may have that much more impact on travel preferences and what people do.
Certainly, that very interesting. The last question on the exhibitors here and the other companies here. You've mentioned that it's largely been an event for sort of the mid-tier to smaller level service and product companies. What are some of the challenges that you've seen or heard and talked about here in your meetings? What are some of the key technology challenges that they're facing?
Well, I think that there's a couple of things. One of the big things that's really being talked about in the industry, and actually the Open Travel Alliance on Wednesday morning, before the show, had a session on ancillary revenue, and that's a big challenge, because when you're disaggregating the different aspects of the product that you used to buy together. I mean, when you bought a seat, you got your luggage for free, you were able to bring on carry-ons for free, and all the other amenities were packaged together. Now that's being disaggregated, and then in some cases people are creating branded fares by rebundling and just calling them something different to create greater revenue. And I think that the industry as a whole is trying to figure out how to do that effectively. Open Travel, one of the things that they're trying to do with their Open Travel XML messaging scheme is to make it easier to represent those different things and then be able to resell them. And I would say that the other thing, and I had a couple of conversations with Stephen Joyce from Resgo, as well as Jason Reckers from the Adventure Travel Alliance Association, is about tour operators. I mean, if you think about it, when you go on a trip, so much of what you do on the trip is activities, and all that is run through a lot of local tour operators. If you want to go, on a whale watch, or if you want to go on a hike, or go on a tour of Volcanoes National Park, which I hope to do later this summer, you need to figure out who am I going to do that with. And right now, that's an extremely fragmented community. Most of that information is not bookable the way that the rest of travel is. There's very few aggregation sites other than Viator is one of the few. But managing all those one-to-one relationships with all the smaller vendors who basically have perishable inventory, has been a challenge to get them on board. What's the right platform to use? And also, how do you get the small tour operator who probably doing most things by Excel spreadsheets and sticky notes to really embrace the technology, to maybe integrate that into the GDS to broaden the distribution, and instead of having 5 people go on a trip where there's 10 seats, and there's all that lost revenue, maybe you can get 6 or 7 or 8, and for really very little they can start to increase the revenue that they're getting and have more people take advantage of the kinds of activities they can do on vacation. Not that sitting at a beach is bad, but a lot of times there's more to do.